intro music?
Yo, service only, we're back, man. I got my man Jared Walker.
What's up, y'all?
He's back in Boston, and he's blessing us with his presence on this episode of Service Only, man. Thank you for that.
Hey, man, the honor is truly mine.
Welcome back to the city.
I'm happy to be back.
Hey.
Where it all started.
So normally I like to kind of go back and talk about, what got people to where they are.
Yeah.
But I want to start with where you are now, and then take it from there.
Okay. You hitting it with you putting the thing down, flipping it, and reversing it.
Yeah, put the thing down, flipping and reversing it.
Is your finger?
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right. So right now I currently reside in Hollywood, California.
Well, what the people want to really know about before you talk about that.
Oh, okay, my bad.
What's up with the quote of the week, man?
Oh, yeah, man. It all started off at work. It was kind of a joke where my coworker would just put a camera in my face and she'd be like, drop wisdom, go. And I would just always make up just a random thing.
Yeah.
And it just always, it like made sense, but it didn't make sense. And she started calling it Wisdom Wednesday. And I liked it, and I was like, what if like I could take this and, instead of it being in the middle of the week, it was the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
And it was kind of going into the new year, and I was like, all right, one of my kind of resolutions was to be consistent with something, to do something every single week.
True.
And it turned into the quote. And I did it a couple times, and I was like, let's test this out. And people were DMing me or texting me about it, and then people were like, mocking me and mimicking me. And it's weird because I purposely make it not make sense, and it's hard to not make sense. But people, yo, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
And I think people are more not necessarily inspired by the words, but by the energy that comes out of it. Because I just go to 10. And
so do you have so far? Do you have a favorite one that you've done?
Yeah, my favorite one is when I talked about having a power balloon.
Okay.
One, because typically when I make the quote, it just kind of comes from like what's in my car that I can grab that can be the power item. Sometimes I'll think about it kind of weeks prior, but there were balloons in my car.
I've seen that one. You blew it up. You just kind of let it fly. Yeah.
So there was a lot of takes with that one because when I blew the balloon and let it go, there was one clip where it hit the window and came back and hit me in the face mid quote, and I just lost it. And and even the final one that ended up coming out, like it flew around perfectly, where I went to the back of the car, to the side of the car, and then like landed on my lap, and then I just kept going into the quote. And that one, I just was talking about floating, and there's a little bit of it in there. If you listen close, I try to throw in
catch
like
a gem here
there's
and
always a gem here and there.
And what about comments at DM? What has been the most interesting observation that you got from
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny. People will say, well, probably the most consistent one is everyone's like, yo, keep it up, keep doing this. Like, I look forward to these. And I think even some people have had me on like alert, where you can alert whenever it posts, which is cool. I'm like a R-list celebrity doing big things, baby.
Just
trying to get to
D. Just a couple letters away.
Just a couple letters away, man. And so that part is cool. I do like my tips here and there. Those are a little bit harder to be consistent with because I want it to be stronger. But there was actually a time where this random kid, he was like 20 or 22, said in his bio his page was private.
Yeah.
But he hit me and was like, yo, man, I really like the stuff that you do. Could you make a personal quote for me? Because I'm having trouble talking to girls.
Oh.
And then I was like, yo, I'm gonna give you something this week, and I gave like the tip of the week, and I didn't put him on blast to let him know that, but I made it, I posted it, and then I DM'd him it, and he was like, yo, man, thank you.
That's dope.
And
That's dope.
I hope you bagged everything after that week, man, and if you did it, just send me back, and we'll try another trick.
All right, so do you think that you would have created that if you didn't move and be in LA? You think you would have still had that same idea and energy, or do you think it's really just because you was actually out there, you had the new coworker, she kind of like gave you the inspiration?
Yeah,
for that?
man. I think I do believe a lot of it does have to do with me being in LA. I've always been like someone that's, I'm silly, I'm wild, I
Mhm.
just do crazy stuff. But something about being in California, and I don't know if it's I think it's a combination of just the creatives that I work with,
Yeah.
and there's some really creative, fun, energetic people that are in the office, and I just feed off of that because that's who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that's just LA. Like, there, a lot of the landscape out there is a lot of young, aspiring, kind of artistic folks, and people are music and modeling, entertainment, and things like that. And I don't know, something about it. I feel like being out there, I just felt inspired to just do something. And this was dope is that I'm getting bi-coastal support.
For sure.
I know most of the people I know are in Boston, and I get support here, and people out in LA that I see them in the street, and they're like, "Good morning, good morning, good morning," and I'm like, "All right, cool." Make sure you say, give me that like.
Hey yo,
Yeah.
I need your social currency.
I need that social currency.
So all right, so let's dial it back.
Mhm.
So what on your journey led you to LA? How'd you start working for that giant Nike,
Yeah.
fashion and fitness brand?
Mhm.
How'd you get there? What led you there?
Yeah.
What were you doing before that?
Yeah, man. LA. After I graduated in 2010, the first thing I jumped into, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I was big into entertainment. So I modeled and acted on the side, right out of college. Young baby face, man. I was handsome. And I did that for a little bit, and it was interesting because I felt as I've gotten older, you just get I'm more comfortable with my skin,
for sure.
and at this point, I'm not that afraid of being embarrassed. It's kind of like whatever to me. I'm just going to be myself.
Mhm.
But it was definitely a slower kind of process to get to this, where I just no longer care. But I worked at a nonprofit, and kind of coincidentally, I was always a Nike head. I was always a sneakerhead, and but someone that I worked with, she also worked for Nike, and I was like, yo, like, what's up with the discount? Like, can you hook me up? And she was like, nah, I'll get fired. And I was like, cool, can you get me a job there? And so I was doing the full-time thing. I was working for the nonprofit, working with high school student athletes, and then I was like, cool, give me a weekend job. And I started working there on the weekends, and it was crazy to just working at the store part-time on Newbury Street. And when I was there, I just felt like this new presence, I almost felt like a different version of myself, a better version of myself, where, retail was not a place that I necessarily saw myself in my career, as I was a manager in one role, and then I was like, whatever, I'll do this part-time. And I was actually saving money to move to LA because I wanted to try that whole acting thing still.
Yeah.
And something about it, man, it was like I drank the Kool-Aid, and they were like, I was like, yo, this is where I need to be, this is where I want to be. And the more I kept learning about the different jobs and that existed there, I was like, yo, I need to be at Nike. And it's interesting because I think it flipped a switch in me in terms of hard work, where because I knew exactly what I wanted, I put all my eggs in one basket. I was pulling out tricks and stops that I've never done. I networked harder than I've ever networked. I was shaking hands, kissing babies, and it was able to land a corporate position with Nike in 2015, being an Eakin. And along the journey to getting that role, I met you, man.
Hey, man,
shout out to this guy.
That was all right. That was all right.
Chance meeting.
It was one of the perks, and that role, I think it was another thing that just kind of transformed me into a completely different person. Now I had all this responsibility where I was managing, bigger budgets, and like I worked remotely, so my boss was in New York, and I was, having to kind of. They trusted me to do my job, and I was just so determined to do it well, and I was so understanding that the opportunity that I had was, few and far between, and there were so many other people that were trying to get this role, and I went in, and once I kind of figured out how to do the job well and how to leverage my relationships well, then I was like, all right, got this, and the job was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of travel. Met a lot of dope people. That's how I ended up in Toronto, which is
True. Shout out to the Six.
Shout out to T.O., man. You changed my life. And so that whole thing, really, I think, shaped me as a driven kind of careerman. And, it led me to, careerman a word?
Career person.
Career-driven person.
Yeah, career-driven person.
Career man.
Career person.
Career man sounds like a superhero.
It also sounds like a suitcase.
A career man suitcase.
Yeah.
Luggage by career man.
Ooh, okay. Let's save that one. That could be something.
Yeah, don't steal that. But if you do, we need royalties.
Yeah, straight up. Career man suitcases. And so, it completely changed. And then I knew, I was like, all right, I want to work in LA. This was a plan that I had initially. That was the main reason why I started working for Nike in 2013. And now it was 2015, 2016, 2017. I was like, all right, I'm not going to change up and there's Nike opportunities in Chicago and New York and Oregon, but there's an office in LA, and I was like, I'm gonna do everything in my power.
And you kind of held fast to that because you could have been in Chicago, could have been in New York, you could have even been in Portland. And I remember having a conversation with you. He was like, yo, Chicago's the mission. Then it was like, yo, New York's the mission. Then it was like, yo, LA could be, but something's really going on in one of these two cities. And then out of nowhere, it was like, boom.
It was crazy because I think out of all the situations and opportunities that were coming up, LA seemed like the least likely. And when other ones kind of started disappearing and fizzing away, LA was still standing there, and I was ready. Honestly, man, I was contemplating, I might have to leave because I knew I really wanted to leave Boston. I was determined to leave Boston last year, and I love the city. I'm so happy to be back. But I just knew that in order for me to grow, I needed to go somewhere else. And I was like, LA is number one, so let's focus on number one, and whatever happens, happens. But it worked out perfectly. Where I remember I got that call. I was on Sterile Drive, and got the unofficial offer. I almost just rode up on the Esplanade. But yeah, it was incredible, man. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Love my new job. Love, like I said, the people I work with inspire me every day, and so yeah, I'm blessed.
So there was a couple things you said. So I mean, you and I kind of talked about the show a little bit. This show, this series, Service Only, is really about showcasing stories for people that I feel like are inspiring, that have a story to tell, that may not necessarily be highlighted, and showing journeys. Creators, influencers, entrepreneurs, founders, tastemakers, right? So you said a couple of key things in terms of you having a job at this nonprofit, right? You didn't necessarily need the part-time job, right? But you felt within yourself that there was something at Nike, some type of energy that you needed to check out. And originally, it was just because you wanted Nike, you was a sneakerhead, you wanted your own discount so you can have the access, right? But I think through that, you kind of saw that, if I trust myself and I try something else out, in addition to what I'm already doing, and I put some energy over here, something can happen.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's huge because I feel like there's a lot of people that are scared to take a risk. And even with having something stable, they may feel like it's too much of a risk to add on to their plate, let alone leave what they're doing to put all their eggs in one basket.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one key thing that you said that I think a lot of people can take away from.
And man, I think that whole time in my life, it was 2013 when I decided to add an additional job to what I was doing.
So you were willing to do more?
Yeah, it changed so much. I think that was almost the start of me breaking the cycle of, I was comfortable in my other job, 100%. And then adding this piece, created a new sense of urgency because some days I had to go straight from that job to this one. But then also, I was always going out on the weekends, always wasting money and going out to the club and bars and whatever. And now I was working Sunday to Monday, Sunday to Saturday. I was working every single day, and I still felt good. Like if anything, I felt like it made me schedule and structure myself a lot better, and that was just the start of the transition to getting to where I'm at right now.
And think about all the relationships and all the opportunities that you had the ability to take advantage of, just because you decided to add something else and then trust what was within you. To put something else on your plate, to try another job. Retail wasn't necessarily something that you wanted to do, but you were willing to do it. You was willing to be uncomfortable,
absolutely,
to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So like I said, that's one key thing. The other thing I think sticks out was, even before that, you had that high idea of you being in LA. So you had that vision. You held fast to that vision. You know, you didn't derail from, or should I say, there was no altering in your decision to maybe go somewhere else, do something else. Like, it was always in your mind, maybe vision board, maybe written down, but you knew you wanted to be there.
It's funny. I made a vision board in 2017.
And was LA on it?
LA was on there.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's another gem right there.
That's-
You know, you knew where you wanted to be at. You cultivated that idea. You put that idea somewhere,
I was telling everybody.
and you told everybody.
Like,
And you're like me. Like I'm like, sometimes, you know, these things I want to do, ideas that I have, places I want to go, whatever. I'll share it with the circle, just to hold me accountable. Because I'm the type of person, I'm gonna do what I say. You know, so if I tell you I'm gonna do something, and you know about it, that's gonna make me feel like I have to do it. I have to show up. I have to perform. You know. So I think those are two key things that I heard just in your description of your journey at that point. Absolutely. You know, getting from Boston to LA, even getting into Nike and LA. What were challenges for you being at Nike in Boston, maybe even before you were at Eakin, to getting to your position in LA? Because obviously, just because you work at the Nike retail store, any Nike retail store, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to move to a different location, let alone a different store, let alone a different position, or even go higher in the store, right?
Absolutely.
So what were some of the challenges that you had to kind of go through? What was your mind frame at while you were there? Because I'm pretty sure there's other people comfortable in their spots that maybe want to break through or just see some growth, maybe go to a different place, or just, you know, become in a upper hierarchy of where they work.
Absolutely.
So, so what did you face?
So that's a very good question, because this is actually a part that I left out. So when I worked at the store initially, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna bust my butt, and I'm gonna be, you know, I worked like 3.5 days a week, and I'm gonna bust my butt and try to be the best salesperson on the floor, bring the best energy and all of this every single day that I'm there. And when I'm there, you're gonna be like, okay, Jarek's here, even though Jarek's not here for half the week. When Jarek's here, you're gonna know, for good reasons. And it started with that, and that was like a cool thing. And I found that something that I quickly realized was that a lot of you would impress people during those times, but only the management in the store. Yeah. And I knew that I needed to. Luckily, around the time when I worked for Nike, whenever there were big events, so Boston Marathon was this big moment, that's when a lot of people from corporate would come into town. And when that happened, I was like, all right, I need to shake hands, kiss babies. I'm going to do what I'm doing well on the floor, but I need to meet, the who's and the people that can help me get to where I need to get to. And one of the pieces, or one of the ways that I knew I can get FaceTime was with the Run Club. The Run Club was something that they talked about when they opened up the store in 2014, and they talked about it being this thing and about community and all these things. And I was all about community, but I was not about running. Yeah, for sure. Football. I was a football player. I was not running. I was too big.
Sidebar before you even go into NRC, I originally met this dude at NRC, and shout out to Chad Troyer, who was the original Egan in Boston, and he actually brought me there. You know what I'm saying? He had on some trial shoes, and he was like, "Yo, they're gonna have them at the Run Club. You want to try them on? Come to the Run Club." I didn't want to run, but I wanted to check the shoes, so I showed up. Who was there? This dude. This dude was like, "Yo," had all this energy.
No reason.
How y'all doing? Welcome. And I'm like, bruh, listen, I just want to try these shoes on. Maybe I'll run a mile. Like, who's this dude?
He thought I was corny.
Yeah, he was hella corny. You know what I'm saying? Hella corny. Like, yo, we got an hour. We gonna run. Bruh, could we start the run? Like, you be there for a good 20 minutes. The run ain't start yet. He's like, hey, guys, we firing up.
You got to build the momentum, baby. You bring them up. And then we go run. Yeah, so, he still remembers. It's stuck in his mind.
So, hey, listen, I'm going to just let y'all know. I wasn't trying to run. This dude made me feel like I didn't want to be there times 10. I'm going to just let y'all know that 100%. But he made it like he was saying, like he made his energy felt. You know what I'm saying? He made his presence there.
I wish you gave me the feedback back then.
You know, I knew that if I'm gonna go to a run club, I'm gonna see this dude for the most part. I'm gonna just have my headphones on, you know, and when they're done with all that, we gonna stop the run.
I can't believe you weren't listening, man. I was dropping some gems. And so yeah, that was, and it's funny because when they asked me to do run club, I said no. I was like, nah, I don't run. Just silly. Like, who told you I run? Like, I don't do that. And she was like, come on, like. And it was weird. All she had to do was ask another time. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it out. And in my mind, I said, okay, I think, because when I thought it through the second time, I said, this could just give me extra oomph or a little bit more than whoever else I'm competing against if I do this, right? Started running, and it was cool because I was running the 2 mile group, and everyone that ran the 2 mile option wasn't really like a runner. They were maybe newer to running. And so I was in shape, but just not a runner. But because everyone was new to running, like I could keep up with everybody and I could lead the way, and it was cool. And then one day they just chopped the 2 mile run. They didn't even talk to me about it. I was pretty disappointed.
I remember that, yo. I think when I first started running in NRC, there definitely was a 2 mile run. And then it was just like 4 to 3. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it broke my heart. And it was 3 and 5. And even though it was just a 1 mile difference between 2 and 3, the caliber of people that ran the 3 were different. Now we had people that ran in college, people that run every day, and they're looking at me to lead the run. And I was like, yo, I got this. And I remember the first run I ran a 3 mile, and I'm running. We probably got halfway through. I look at the watch, and I was like, I got another mile and a half, and I'm dying right now because they were fast. And I remember just stopping. All right, yo, look. I'm like, I'll do this. You gonna take the left, take the right. I'll meet you back at the store.
Yeah.
I would always be like, I'm gonna wait for the people in the back. Like I would just always do that to protect myself.
Yeah.
And I almost quit after that because I was like, I can't do this. This is dumb. Like, why am I gonna embarrass myself? And kind of one of those things again. I was like, don't quit. That was one thing. I was a quitter in high school, and I would always, anytime I talk about quitting, I like stop myself. I'm like, all right.
Yo, can I sidebar for a second?
Nah, hit me.
I think you admitting that is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Admitting that you were a quitter in high school, and that kind of stuck with you. So as you got older, you were like, yo, this can't define me. Like, this ain't me no more.
It won't. And
So do you feel like it's okay to be a quitter as long as you own it, acknowledge it, and then moving forward, don't let that define you?
I would say no. I think because there's always going to be that first or even a couple of moments where you think to quit.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you try harder, right? And I remember every time I tried to quit, because there was a time I tried to quit in high school and there was a time I tried to quit in college. When I tried to quit in high school, it was wrestling, the hardest thing I've ever done physically, except for running a marathon. Like my legs were like jello. I could barely walk that week when I tried it out. And I was literally in practice, in my mind, I said, I'm quitting. Like, I'm done. And the coach somehow saw it in my eyes. And at the end of practice, the whole team was sitting in a circle. He brought me to the middle of the circle and was like, guys, I'm looking in Jarek's eyes. I see demons. And he started turning. All of a sudden, he was the preacher. The little white dude.
Tabernacle.
He goes, and the demons are telling Jarek to quit. But I know Jarek. And Jarek's not a quitter. And I looked at him and I was like, yes, I am. I didn't say it out loud, but my mom was like, yes, I am. I'm out.
Yeah.
But he called me out, and all my boys were there, like, you know, the older kids that I looked up to, and I was like, dang, I can't quit. And I did it. And I wrestled. That was sophomore year. I wrestled sophomore year, junior year, senior. And I sucked. I was not good, right? But I wrestled.
Yeah.
And
you got through with it.
I got through with it. And then in college, same thing. I almost quit football because I felt like I wasn't getting respect. And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, yeah, they don't respect me. Like, I'm out here working, they don't respect me. She's like, bro, are you working? Are you trying your hardest? And I was like, nah. And then she's like, try your hardest. And if nothing changes, then you can quit. And I won't even talk about it. And it's weird. My mom's not even a sport person.
Yeah.
Right? But like, and I bet if I even told her about that conversation, she wouldn't even remember it. And like, I literally went back, and then it was like, I was the most annoying person in practice because I was playing every practice like it was a game.
That's
'Cause I
dope.
was like,
That's what
this
you
is-
need to do.
I was like, this is how I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
Everyone was people. I got cheap shotted in practice. People trying to fight me in practice. I developed the illest trash talk game after talking to my religious mother. I was I was just trash talking like crazy, and then all the coaches were like, "Yo, we love this. Keep doing it."
Yeah.
And then I was playing, and then I was traveling with the team, and like everything changed. So kind of same thing in this moment, and I felt like every time these pieces happened, right, high school, college, career, that was like a transformation in life. And so when I said no to quitting running, I was running by myself. I was running with the club. And then next thing you know, I was the coordinator for the run club, and I was sending out reports. A part of being a coordinator was sending reports to corporate every week. So I'm sending reports. I'm doing these selfie videos and taking pictures and making all the runners do these silly things, and then that was going viral amongst the Nike community.
Yeah, for sure.
And so one day, I just randomly I get a phone call from someone in the New York office, like, "Yo, Jack, I never met this guy in my life. I just been sending emails," and he was like, "Yo, how are you getting people to do this crazy stuff? Like, I got people singing, dancing, whatever." And it'd be like groups of like 30, 40 people just singing or dancing.
And I hated that shit.
Oh, man.
By the way.
But Nike loved it. And, yeah. And then I remember I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm crazy, and I guess they just want to be crazy with me.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yo, what are you trying to do? Like, what's your goals?" And I was like, "I want to be Eakin." That was like the job I wanted. And, I was like, "I want to be Eakin in LA." And they're like, "All right, well, we don't really have connections with LA. We're on the East. But, keep doing what you're doing. Like, just know people are watching." I remember I was like, all right, just not trying to take it up a notch. And then I started getting different opportunities that led me to getting more FaceTime with people in corporate, to being sent to work where I did like a stretch assignment where I was working as an Eakin, even though I was working in retail. And, and I was working with all the other Eakins, and then I met all these other Eakins, and I'm like, "Yo, taking notes, like, tell me, what do you think I should do? How can I get to this job?" And there was one guy I met in particular, Marcus Oliver, who was the Eakin in Atlanta, and he ended up being my roommate when I went to New York for this big event to help out. And this dude, I remember one thing, I'll never forget. People drop gems that I store them. And he said, "If you get that interview," he goes, "when you get that interview, make sure when you're done, they have no questions." And like, he was just this soulful Atlanta Southern dude that like would say things and I would have to Google it. But because even with that, I was like, I think I know what you mean. I don't want to ask, but I think I know what you mean. And I interpret it as, one, I didn't leave it with they don't have questions about who I am or what my character is. I took it as they shouldn't have questions about, well, should we even listen to this other candidate or stuff like that. Yeah. That's how I interpreted it. That's a good way to internalize it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to wow them so hard that they don't even care about who else interviewed.
True.
And that was like the mindset that I went into the interview with. And if it wasn't for running, which is crazy, if it wasn't for running, a sport that I hated, something that was punishment in high school, in college, and all the sports that I played, was what has helped transform and change my life. And it was, kind of same thing. I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and it propelled me forward.
That's crazy, man. So, like, what would you say to others who, maybe they don't necessarily know where they want to go. Maybe they do know where they want to go, but they're just stuck on how to get there.
Absolutely.
What can they do on a daily, weekly, or maybe just on a mindset to maybe give them some momentum to start seeing different results?
Well, I think people get trapped in routine, and or sometimes you don't even stop to just think. Right nowadays, everything moves so fast with going to work, social media, just media in general, on TV, family things, friend things, whatever it is, and sometimes you can just stop and think about what you want, what you love, and what you enjoy. And it's funny because I was guilty as well of not doing that, and I'll never forget this. I'm sorry, I keep telling stories, man.
Let the stories come, bro.
Let's
hear more stories.
In college, I had the best roommates ever. They were like my brothers, and all three. It was four of us. all three of them knew exactly what they wanted to do in college. One wanted to be a lawyer. He's a lawyer. One wanted to be a doctor. He's going through that whole med school process right now, and the rotation and all that. And then another one, he wanted to work in finance, got a finance job right out of college. And me, I had no idea what I wanted to do, like not a clue. But I knew what I enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll never forget, it was senior year. I should have been looking at jobs, right, to apply for it. But I'm over here looking at sneakers, like sneakernews.com, I think, and I'm just reading blogs and reading about shoes and reading like the history or the technology or whatever it was. And he walks into the room and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Looking at shoes, man. Like, what do you mean?" And he was like, "What?" He's like, "Who does that?" I'm like, "Bro, this is what interests me. Like, I like this." And he was like, "Yo, why don't you like work in footwear?" And I was like, "What am I do? Work in retail? Like that's what it was. Working retail?" I was like, "What's the sneaker job? Like, what is that?" And I just never thought to look it up. I just thought in my world, anything that I touched in that time, the only people that worked with sneakers were at Foot Locker, the Nike store, Champs or whatever. Like I never thought or fathomed the corporate side, the creative side of it, because that's the part that I'm interested in the storytelling. And I remember that conversation, senior year, sitting at my desk, and never thought about it again until I was working at the Nike store, and then I started to learn about the things that I would have learned about if I actually applied to the Nike store back in 2010 when I was, right? And so when I look at it like that, I'm like, where would I be now if
you would have did that?
If I just did it then?
Yeah, for sure.
Because like literally that's what it was.
But you probably had to go through that so you could,
process,
yeah,
absolutely. 100%. And I mean, I a lot more, it's a lot more mature, but I even think too, right? If I knew about any of those things, like in high school, where I didn't really look anything up. I wanted to be a dentist because that's what my mom said I should be, right? And coming from a Jamaican household, it was dentist, doctor, lawyer.
Yeah.
One of the three. That was like the trifecta. The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity.
And I didn't want any of that, but I liked the dentist thing because every time I went to the dentist, like, "Yo, you got good teeth." And I was like, "Well, dang, I'm about to be the dentist with good teeth." And that was my thought process. And so it's interesting that when I started doing things outside of clubbing, right, and outside of just kicking it with my friends, and which is fine and great, but when I took time for myself, that was when I started to discover more about myself, learn more about myself, and realize what made me happy, what I was passionate about, and where I wanted to be in life. And had that not happened, I wouldn't have made the best friends that I have. I wouldn't have, because I was actually talking about this the other day. I would have never been friends with you if it was a couple years back, because back then I was like, I got my boys, I got my job, this is it, and I'm gonna just keep moving up every time, every couple years, and then I'm gonna wait for the promotion. And like at a place that I was losing, I didn't see myself there for a long time, but I was just like, I'm just gonna do this because this is what you do. You work at a job and you just move up until you're the CEO, right? And it's not how it works. But when I switched it up, that was when life that's when life elevated and life got better.
So taking time for yourself is very important.
Yeah, you gotta do that. Otherwise, you ain't gonna really know who you are. You'll be sitting in a dark room, lost, wondering why.
Think about it.
So now, currently, you're in LA.
Yep.
New city, new position, new responsibilities, new environment, right?
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about what are some of the things you're dealing with now with your new team, how you guys are affecting culture, how you're incorporating other influencers, and how, Nike's a powerhouse, right?
Ooh, yes,
so what more can Nike do, at least from your position, to help keep that momentum going?
Absolutely.
Keep that brand share in the mind of new consumers and current consumers.
This has been an exciting time for Nike, where in the past 2 years, a lot of other brands have really come up and done really well, put out really strong products, and have raised the bar in terms of competition. And initially I was like, oh no, like. No.
You were worried about the swoosh?
I was like, what?
You were worried about the swoosh?
And then it was like, yo, it's the sport mentality. It was like, yo, bring it.
Yeah,
and I think
true.
it caused us to elevate. It caused us to think outside the box, and it caused us to also look at ourselves as partly responsible for allowing these brands to come up. And it was cool to see leadership kind of go back to the drawing board, and me, being at kind of the young buck getting in here, like thinking of, okay, what can I provide from a younger perspective, or even like I work specifically in running, coming from not a running background, like what can I bring into the mix that, this is me cooking, bring into the mix that is gonna help change the game. And
Shout out James Harden.
And so when I got to LA, the running team is a team of 3. Shout out to the team; they're the best ever, Tim and Julia. And when
Who's the other person?
Myself.
Oh, okay, all right. Because that was a team of 2.
Yeah, Tim and Julia.
Okay.
It's team of 3,
All right.
us 3, and we it's dope that you think, all right, what else can Nike do? Like everyone knows Nike, everyone loves Nike, but there's still this kind of the new generation is coming up, and they have a completely different outlook on these brands, right? I felt for us, like Nike was everywhere in the 90s growing up, and 90s, 2000s, like Nike ruled. And there was no way you didn't see Nike, and there was no way you didn't want Nike, because all the best athletes that you looked up to had Nike. Now kids don't even really look up to athletes like that anymore. They still do, but other people that are influential are people in fashion and arts, and and we are, being a sports company, it's like thinking about how to strategically and get into it the right way where it's still tied to our roots, and we don't lose ourselves in trying to keep up with the young bucks, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, sport brings people together. Sport is such a powerful vehicle, and the reason why I love Nike so much, and even marketing for Nike, is I've never looked at us marketing the way that we market as a money driver. It for me at least, it's been, we create the emotion and the connection to the brand that makes you want to be part of the brand, and that's what is going to inadvertently be the money driver, right? Yeah. And so and we can do that because we have the best athletes. We have so much talent just working in the for the company on the ground in the offices, and do some out of the box, crazy, wild things that you would never think about. And one of the biggest projects I got to work on that I'm actually gonna blow up a picture of this. For the Nike Epic React, came out in February, brand new innovation, crazy, because my favorite shoe to run in right now. And the whole idea of this shoe was like a shoe for the masses. Like everyone can run in this shoe. If you never run, if you weren't a runner, you put these on, you're gonna want to run because they feel good. And we wanted to, and the whole idea of it was like, let's eliminate barriers with this shoe, right? Because you might be like, I don't know how these shoes suck or whatever, but if you got a good shoe, this whole idea was eliminate barriers. And like I said, the team I work with is incredible, and their minds are just awesome. And the idea, the thought process of how do we eliminate barriers in LA, I think one of the things that people know about LA is the worst traffic in the country.
Yeah, true.
And they were like, what if we could eliminate traffic for runners to run, to choose go? And we literally in April shut down a freeway, had almost 10,000 runners running on a freeway, running a 10K. And I almost cried when I saw when they blew the horn and people started running. When you can look in the distance and just see a mob of people running along the highway, and people came back ecstatic. You had people out there that had never run before or run their first 10K ever, and like how can you not be inspired by that?
True.
Right? And literally not at one point did I think like, oh hey, make sure they go buy shoes. Like it wasn't about that. It was like we created this moment, and this is a great shoe to do that with, and like you're gonna see the shoe and you're gonna somehow shoe across your path. And it's also just really, really strong technology. Like I had this shoe on all day. I'm wearing it right now. They're a little dirty. I'm not gonna show y'all. Mind your
Yo,
business.
I need to get a pair of Reacts.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you, man. I'm gonna get you. You're gonna be. It's gonna change your life. Those are good.
Those ain't Reacts.
These is better. And so, yeah, man, it changed the game, and it was great to, like, that was like the first big project that I worked on, and you know, went from working with little budgets. This was a big budget thing, and it was a success. Like, typically with big events like that, there's gonna be a couple things that go wrong, maybe a lot of things that go wrong.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I was like, wait, what? People came in, ran. Then we turned this parking lot into a carnival. People kicked it at the carnival. We had athletes there. We had and we had like carnival games, and there was a beer garden, so people was getting lit. I don't know. You only supposed to get 2 beers, but somehow people was getting like 7. And I was like, yo, she's drunk, he's drunk. This is great.
Hey.
And it was dope, and everything was done by like 12. And I was like, wow, let's go to bed. And it was something that I think I'll never forget. It changed my life, and just even changed the way that I think. And it's dope to be a part of that, and even the accolades and the love that we got from the rest of Nike around the world, hitting us up. People in Boston, people in New York, people in Oregon, people in Chicago, being like, yo, y'all killed that.
Yeah.
Right? And that was there's people still posting pictures. I see people in LA still posting pictures about the run, and if you finish the run, we didn't give you a medal. You got some headphones, boy. Yeah, Power Beach.
And that's dope, because instead of, the medal's always good, but I think the Power Beats or the headphones, whatever, I think it re-emphasizes the idea that I want to continue to go. You know what I'm saying?
Were you in the meeting? That's
Hey,
what I said.
you know what I'm
Oh
saying?
man,
Like,
that was it.
but listen,
that was it.
I'm gonna put these on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna just keep
Keep going.
I'm just keep going.
Keep going. Literally, when you picked up your headphones, if you looked up, it said "keep going."
Yeah.
That's what
Listen,
it was. He wasn't even there.
I wasn't there.
He was supposed to.
I was supposed to be there, but I got it.
Real
You
friends.
know, I
Real
got it.
friends. But yeah, it was like that. Being a part of that, man, like that is incredible, and the feeling of inspiring the masses through sport is incredible. And it's truly a blessing, and it's one of those things that, like, that is my driver.
Yeah.
Every day.
I was gonna say I can see it.
Like you said, I'm hyped right now.
I can see
We're just
it.
thinking about it, and like, if you could do something that hypes you up for work,
Yeah, for sure.
bro, I'm livid.
Think about that. Find something that can keep you inspired. Find something that can keep you hyped up. Find something that can give you that energy consistently. Do that thing. Figure out how that can make you money, or figure out how at least that can keep you happy.
Yep.
Maybe you're doing something else that's gonna bring you funds.
Absolutely.
But chase that feeling. He's chasing it.
I'm chasing.
You know?
I'm running.
I'm chasing it.
I'm running.
You know.
Ooh, dang.
Oh man, thank you, man. I really appreciate this conversation. Having the opportunity to have you share your story with the viewers on here. Is there anything else that you would like to share, shed some light on, talk about, discuss?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think it's funny. I had this conversation today of like, things happened and things fell into place for me, and there were definitely hiccups, and there were definitely barriers and obstacles that got in the way, and being positive and keeping positive people around you is incredible, because I think I know, because in that process, in the process of when I was working this full-time job and working the part-time job, there was a moment where I was like, all right, I can't work this full-time job anymore, because it was stripping away my joy. And then I felt like I wasn't being myself, and I was working with kids, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is go into work upset, angry, tired, or just not motivated, and then that to rub off on the kids, because I cared so much about the kids, but I was like, I can't have this be what they see. And
true.
This whole idea of fake it till you make it, and I quit, and I was living off savings and working part-time at the store. Like, this is crazy, and everyone was like, yo, you're dumb. Like people are like, yo, you are dumb. And it was a big risk that I took, and I just kept staying positive. And like the people that told me I was dumb, I was like, yo, cool. I'm gonna talk to you in a couple months, but I'm good. So and the positive people around me were the ones that motivated me, because there was so many times where I was like, yo, I might have made the worst decision ever. And I even remember my birthday that year, September 2014, not wanting to celebrate because I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I remember just staring at the ceiling, and everyone's hitting me up, yo, come out, it's your birthday, let's celebrate. And I was like, nah. I'm not where I want to be. And I was thinking, I was looking at my age and this and that, and I was like, yo, this is not what I envisioned. And I remember literally I left at like 12:30 a.m. and went out to go meet with people, and like just positive energy, mad love. Yo, Jared, one dude that I didn't even know liked me had a bottle of champagne for me, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. I don't really drink champagne, but I'm gonna drink it. And someone brought an apple pie. I love pie, and I was like, dang. The love, right? And it was weird, man, where I was like, I got these people out here rooting for me, vouching for me, or at least they care about me. Mm-hmm. And it made me, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going, put my headphones on and keep going. And staying positive and keeping positive people around you, that's what, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to move forward. And literally that was the end of September. A week or two later, I get a phone call that they're going to send me to New York. And then I sit with the person whose idea was to send me to New York. He's like, yo, you have been killing it. And I wanted you, he's like, I literally chose you to do this so you can sit in front of the manager who manages the Eakins, so you can get more FaceTime with him, because another job is going to open soon. And if he knows who you are and sees how you work, then it's going to be a better opportunity for you. He's like, you better kill it. And he's like, if you don't kill it, don't talk to me. And I was like, cool, right? And like, that was how it all, oh man, that's crazy. And so, you might not always have the, you're sad and then 2 weeks later everything's gravy, but I think staying positive, staying realistic, but staying positive and really doing what you can to work towards it, and being around a strong team of people that are going to push you, are going to drive you, are going to hold you accountable, and be good. And, get rid of the naysayers.
Wakanda forever.
Forever. T'Challa, we miss you.
Hey, man. Thanks,
back.
bro.
No doubt, man.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Listen, man, that's another episode of Service Only. Jared Walker.
I'm here, baby. We're going to do the outro music. Yeah. Go to G.